welcome. We're the Owatonna School Board. This is Monday, the 28th of October, 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Eric is going to give us an update on our attendance.
We are just missing Iowa tonight.
Let's hope that we see him roll in. Let's start tonight with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Up first tonight would be to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 4 is mission moment. I, for one, am very anxious to hear more about tonight's mission moment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. On every other board night, when we recognize Mission Moment, Sarah Hoffman and Lori Bugler put together the information for our Mission Moments. Tonight, I'm turning the tables. I want to lift up these two colleagues that are amazing at their work and even better people. Lori Bugler is our district communications specialist. She works tirelessly to make sure the happenings in our district are communicated to our staff and community. I am grateful for her guidance, diligence, and strategic thinking, and for her commitment to tell the story of ISD 761. Where there is an Owatonna Public Schools event, you will find Lori taking pictures and capturing some of our best moments. Sarah Hoffman serves as the executive assistant to the school board and to the superintendent. I tell people often that Sarah is the CBO of our organization. That's an acronym for clearly the brains of the operation. Her masterful skill set makes sure that our school board is prepared and that the office of the superintendent is running smoothly. In her career, Sarah has seen most everything, including many school board members and a couple of superintendents. I am grateful for her guidance, counsel, patience, and grace that she grants me every day. This work can be difficult at times, but having these two amazing individuals makes every day brighter and better in our school district. Please join me in thanking Lori and Sarah for their outstanding work in our district and for their unwavering commitment to our students, staff, and community. Long overdue, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Elstad, very nice words and very well deserved as well. Thank you both. We will move on. Item 5 tonight is public forum. We do have one card. And Francie Hall, if you would please make your way up, and you'd have a seat here at the that center table. Mr. Elstad's going to make sure that the microphone is working appropriately for you.
I need a booster chair.
It's a little bit of a stress.
I'm going to have to be, I might have to just sit on my knee.
Francie, you can stand.
Can I stand? Okay, that'd be better.
Sorry.
This is not going to work.
If we can just make sure that you're able to be picked up by the microphone, that would be
All
great.
right, so do I have to push it when I'm starting?
We'll make sure that we get it turned off. The only thing that I would ask is that I realized I forgot my sheet that asks you to keep your comments to 3 minutes and specific to the nature of the school board. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So I have read the People's Press article about the data requests and the money that it cost us, which was a lot of money, and it was between what, 300,000 and 500,000, I'm not sure. And then also the national, and NPR also did a big thing about this. I think that the fact that that money was spent was bad enough, but the worst part about it is that it was spent because people didn't want to teach history to our children. And I am absolutely just baffled, because if we don't teach that history, whether it's the Native Americans that we have, killed, or the Holocaust or things like that, we're doomed to repeat it. And our children have to be resilient. They have to know that bad things go on in the world, but the world goes on, and so will they. And so that's just my basic message. I was really disturbed that all of that money was spent, but even worse, that there were people on the school board who do not want to teach history. And that's my whole statement.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item 6 tonight would be the general information. There's an enrollment report that was made a part of your packet. You'll notice that there weren't any red squares in any of the schools or grade levels. Any questions for Mr. Elstead with regard to the enrollment report? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Item 7, these are just discussion items only. First up would be board forum, and if you don't mind, Deborah, I'm going to start over on your side with board forum.
Nope, don't have anything.
Nothing for me.
No, other than the committees, which I assume we'll get to shortly.
Yep, we'll talk about that in just a second. I have a couple of things. I did notice that Coffee with the Superintendent is on Friday,
Thursday morning.
Thursday. Thursday of this week at the district
Adjust it to
office.
Thursday morning because of a previous commitment on the 1st, so it's 8:30 a.m. on Thursday morning at the district office.
Okay, and I would guess if there's a couple of school board members that would be able to join you for that, you'd
That
take.
would be great.
Okay.
Do we have any volunteers that I might?
I may not be able to make,
I can check my calendar.
Okay.
all right,
Okay.
You
So
said 8,
30.
8:30, okay.
okay.
Just can't have 4. Can only have 2.
If I'm available, I'll be there.
Okay, Lori will be there, and did I hear you, Jolene?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
Yep, perfect.
And perhaps Deborah? Okay.
All right. The second thing, we had made available for all of the board members the book, The Anxious Generation. And this is just my quick reminder to say, if you have a chance, please dig in. Please pour yourself into that. There will be a point in time in the not too distant future where we'll reconvene and we'll take some time to talk specifically about the nature of that book. Item 3, Mr. Elstad and I will be joining Ayub and Aaron tomorrow at the MSBA. There's some leadership training for our up and coming generation. And so we're looking forward to spending some time with them. Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Nothing tonight.
Elizabeth. Aaron, what do you have?
Today, the Owatonna Symphony Orchestra went and partnered up with the Austin Symphony Orchestra, which is a professional orchestra, and we performed for a bunch of elementary schoolers over at Austin High School, and that was fun. And then we also did that on Sunday. And then the NHS blood drive took place, so that was super cool. Got to donate some blood. And then Girls State Cross Country is coming up, so go to that if you can. And then the mock trial case is supposed to be released tomorrow, Ayub and I hope. That's it.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 1, that would be the committee meeting reports. We'll kind of make our way around the horn again. Deborah, do you have anything for committee meeting reports?
Only that I thought that I was at the last facilities meeting. I came late, but I thought I was there. Talking. Nope.
Not that I recall.
No,
No, I wasn't. I was sick. That's
Yeah.
right.
you were, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Tim, anything?
No, the policy committee had met, but I didn't, I'm deferring to Jolene.
Okay.
Yeah, we might continue to work through policy after policy the best we can, as quickly as we can.
Very good.
Yeah, and just to kind of further that conversation, there's a list of first reading policies in your packet tonight, so you can take a look at those. Fairly straightforward. I don't think any surprises, but constant work there. So we have another couple of meetings scheduled. We're meeting virtually every month, so.
Eric, I'll touch on the facilities meeting, and if there's anything that I'm overlooking or forgetting, you'll fill in the blanks. But facilities met just before our last work session, and there is an item here that you'll see that is board action, that is the sale of the Bridge Street property, and that was something that the Facilities Committee worked its way through, and then the board worked through in a work session, and we'll hear more about that in just a second. But the other component to it is that the building that is going to be a storage facility on the old original Owatonna High School site. There will be a 40 by 80 building that is going up. The board has approved the expenditure for that, and we just got some updates with regard to the progress and the speed with which that building is going up. Anything else?
No, that, you covered all that.
Okay. Elizabeth? All right.
The only thing in regards, sorry,
Yep.
about the building is we're just waiting still on state permit.
Right. Yes. Item 2 would be the school board work session report. Everything was covered in your minutes. Any questions, anything relative to that? And item 3 would be policy revisions. There was a first reading. It looked like there were just a couple. And if anybody from policy would like to give us just a quick overview on that, that would be great.
Well, I'll jump in, you guys can comment. So again, you'll find 3, excuse me, make sure I get my right list. This one. 5 policies up for, review. We'll take another look at these in a month or so and actually approve them. So this is just a first reading. Board committees, again, these are really just edits that align practice with what the policy says. So kind of cleaning up some things. Student medication, I think it's pretty straightforward. I thought of you, Elizabeth. You can take a read, but primarily it's about telehealth and mental health treatment available to students. So good changes. Likewise, 521, 532, again, just brings us back to, I think, where we all wanted to be a year or so ago when there were challenges with school officers in the building and there were some difficulties there. So this is bringing us back to really where we want to be, I think. And then 535, again, just additional protection for those with disabilities. So should be pretty straightforward. If you have questions, obviously reach out.
Anybody have any questions with the benefit of this first read on any of it? Hearing
Just
none?
that I noticed in the list of things that were in there, we're going back to Title IX. Has there been a change because of things that the state has decided?
So that's not on the agenda and it's not included in that group that I just described.
Yeah, I didn't see that as a policy that's up for potential review, at least for this time.
In the policy committee meeting minutes, it just said that was further or future discussion.
Correct. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to item B, which would be the administrative report. I'll turn it over to Mr. Elstad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. There are 5 items I want to touch base on tonight, the first of which I've been spending quite a bit of time as of late working on legislative platforms. This is the time when we typically start preparing those platforms to meet with our locally elected officials. Obviously, next Tuesday, we'll decide whom I'm meeting with to do that, with the exception of Senator Jasinski, who is not up for election this time. So working with them, there are 2 items that are probably most prominent. The first of which is, and you've heard this from me before, is equalization. It's trying to find a way to allow us to have the same amount of dollars per pupil unit without impacting our taxpayers negatively. And there is quite an unequal formula. In fact, at last count, and I'll go back about 10 years, 10 years ago in our district, the state was paying approximately 65% of the per pupil unit equalization for us. Now they're at 25%. So we've lost 40% in funding to equalize the funding, and it needs to be addressed. And so that will be probably priority number 1. The other one would be exploring the opportunity for local optional revenue. If you remember, as a school board, you have the right to assign up to $724 per pupil unit in local optional revenue. That hasn't been changed since 2013. And with inflation and things like that, it appears that that will be an item that will be discussed as well. We recently, if you remember, reorganized our major lobbying group, which is now schools advocating for fair funding. And we have retained 2 lobbyists, one of which is a Sam Walseth, who is a longtime lobbyist at the Capitol for Educational Issues. The other one is Nick Zerwas. Nick is new to the firm. He's a former Republican senator from the Elk River area, and he is serving as well on our team to move these items forward with our legislature. The expertise that they bring to the table is insurmountable. They have a lot of experience, and they have been able to both reach across the aisle to gain both bipartisan support on these items. So those are two items that I'm working on diligently right now, because either of those items being impacted will have an immediate impact on our school district financially in the positive. So those are good things. We're preparing for our board data retreat on Thursday, November 7th. In fact, today we went through the next iteration of our presentation to you. We'll be finalizing that and have that ready for you. And just as a quick reminder, that's 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock on November 7th at the district office in the main Professional Development Center room downstairs. You mentioned the student school board event. Looking forward to that tomorrow. Friday, this is going to sound crazy. It's the end of first quarter on Friday. It has gone very quickly, and so students will be wrapping up their first quarter work, and then of course next Monday is a teacher work day for grading and things like that for our staff. And then lastly, you touched on something, Mr. Chair, that I want to make sure that I mention, which is the Anxious Generation book. And again, this is a book that for me was profound in just looking at the technology that our teenagers have access to, and now adults, and how are we managing that best. And so I'm going to double down on the encouragement for you to read that text. But furthermore, I'm working actually with Julie Sullivan and Casey Clausen, and we are trying to generate what would then be a community book study around that. I believe that this is one of the most instrumental texts that's been written about the mental health of our teenagers in a long time. And there's a call to action. And I feel like this is something that we as a district want to certainly facilitate. So looking forward to that further discussion. And then I think we covered coffee and conversation, and I believe those are all the items that were on my list tonight. Thank you.
Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Elstad?
I had one question, and I don't know if Corey Cath is here. Maybe this is better. I can reach out to him. One of his comments, we've learned about how, particularly at the high school, attendance by students was a real challenge coming out of COVID, and it's taken some time. And I was just curious if you had a reaction or any insight as to how that's progressing so far this year.
I don't have the evidence with me tonight.
Yep.
Anecdotally, I would say it's improving for us. One of the things that has changed dramatically, this is probably in the last, I'll say 15 to 18 years, is just the services that are provided outside of school for those students that are considered habitually or chronically truant. There's been a little gap in service where the school district continues the obligation to provide the documentation around truancy. For many, many years, there was a very good system built in from Steele County Health and Human Services that was providing truancy workers that were helpful in helping families and students find a plan to make sure that they were attending regularly. I think there's still a gap in service there. I do feel like our new county attorney is paying attention to this, and so we're seeing a bit of a resurgence, but I think at this point it's improving, but I do think we have to improve the supports around this to make sure that, because there are many reasons why kids are missing school, and some of them are not the fault of the child. And so we have to get those things straight as well. So.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none. Item 8 tonight is the consent agenda. Requires board action, and this would include the minutes from September 23rd, October 15, disbursement and personnel report. Does anybody have a reason that we would pull any item out? None. We'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call. Hearing no discussion, Eric, I'll ask you to do the roll call for us.
Yep. Elizabeth,
Aye.
Deborah,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and I myself is an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9 tonight, also requiring board action. The first would be the policy revisions. This is the second reading, and this would include the policies that we had talked about at our last meeting. Affords us an opportunity. Anybody have any questions relative to the policies that have been presented?
I had talked earlier with Lori just about some fine touching.
Yeah, and there were some administrative fixes we need to do, Sarah, I think on the lettering and the numbering on the paragraphs. So there's nothing substantive. So I would propose that we can approve the substance of these and then just correct the numbering. Thank you, Eric.
Okay. Would one of you be kind enough to introduce the motion for this?
I move that the board approve the policy revisions as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item B would be the Bridge Street property. This is something that the board went into a closed session following our, or during rather, our work session at our last meeting. And no great surprise to anybody, the Bridge Street property has been vacated, the district office has been moved out, and it's time for that property to be sold. So the board, at the board's request, we instructed the superintendent and the administrative team to put out a request for proposal asking professional real estate firms, commercial firms, to submit a bid and explain to us the whys and how they would go about selling that property. The motion is in your packet. Everything relative to the sale of that property, or at least making the request for proposal available to the community, is in your packet. Do you have any questions with regard to this? And I trust that you'll find that it's consistent with where we'd left off at that work session.
Great.
Questions, any thoughts? No? All right. Would one of you be kind enough to introduce this motion?
I move that the board approve the request for proposals document for the sale of Bridge Street property as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item C would be an extended trip request. I'm going to ask Mr. Elstead to give us a quick update on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is a request that we've seen almost annually now. Ms. Asmus, who is our high school concert choir, or choir director, I should say, has requested students to be present at a Twin Cities mini tour, if you will. The reason why it's coming to the board as an extended trip request, because of, in our policy, it states that if students are missing any school, it requires board action to approve theirs. So they're leaving, looks like January 25th, and they're returning back on the 27th of January. A number of activities they have set up, including participating with other high school choirs, as well as they will be singing the national anthem at the University of Minnesota. This time last year they were at I think Timberwolves game last week and last year, and sang the national anthem. So, seeking your approval on their opportunity to have an extended trip.
Do you have any questions? Everything appeared to be in order. Would one of you be kind enough to introduce the motion?
I move that the board approve the extended trip request to the Twin Cities.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item D tonight would be gifts to the district. Mr. Elstead, one more time, if you would, please.
Number of gifts tonight. I'll just call out a couple of them. You'll see a number of gifts that are given to Thriving Minds, which is one of our newest student groups at the high school, really seeking an opportunity to make mental health awareness for our community, and also finding ways within themselves to provide support for one another in mental health. The other thing I would call to your attention, so you'll see a number of gifts that were given in honor and memory of Wayne Hermanson, who was a longtime community member and a supporter of the Owatonna Public Schools, and so just wanted to call that to the board's attention as well, including many other gifts, and 30 hard hats were given as our tech ed, career tech ed construction class gets underway. So that's all. Thank you.
Very good, thanks. Any questions? One of you happen to have this queued up?
I move that the board approve the resolution for acceptance of gifts as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Eric, if you would.
Yep. Elizabeth?
Aye.
Deborah?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Jolene?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And I myself's an aye. 7-0 pass.
Carries, very good. Item 10 tonight would be to adjourn. I am going to make the motion that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Good meeting, folks. Thank you.
I'm sorry? Well, actually, I am going to be at a United Way fundraiser. that open house, they invited people late.
Do you want to write for the speech with me?
Going.
Okay, sick. Let me just roll. Elson.
So I had stopped by your.